on the set, ready to flow. Kicking up dust, spinning tires, it's a dirt track show. Lenses focused, inches rolling, feel that adrenaline. Capture moments, freeze frames.
Everybody to another episode of the Woah Show, powered by Great Lake Speed Shop. Make sure you see Bud and the gang. It's big money season, especially this weekend. Heading into the Woah Nellie 25. Make sure you go see Bud and the gang. They don't just do UMP modifieds. You might know Bud from doing them. See his logo on a lot of them type of cars, but late models and everything else under the sun. He'll help you get going in the right direction. Make sure you also stop into Close Racing Supply, some of the best parts in the business, whether it's their own or many of the manufacturers that they carry. I'm sure everybody in this region knows them pretty well because they're a big supporter of all the racing in the area. But they are a nationally known brand. They got guys from all over winning races, kicking ass, taking names. So make sure you go down. They have a website, do some online shopping, or go down there in person. They have a nice little shop. Carpy's Print Company, can't forget them, the presenting sponsor of the Woah Nellie 25. This awesome hat. They got the hats for the big heads. I always like to say that, but man, they do a wonderful job designing our checks, as you see here, quick time awards, all that good stuff. Can't do any of this without them. The Mountain 106.3 was a marketing sponsor for our previous Woah Nellie race. And of course, Martin Dynamics. Go get your suspension and such from them. You'll see them on the side of a lot of race cars. They're up front, man. They know what they're doing. Make sure you go see Bruce and those guys over there and get to the front. All right, enough for selling all our stuff. It's time to get to the good stuff. We have the original guest of the Woah Show. Announcer for the State Line Speedway, ULMS, UEMS, and now the Hunt the Front series gonna make his debut for that in August. Hunter Jordan, and you might hear him on Saturday nights at Genesee Speedway. We got like the dueling Saturday night announcers here tonight, so that's pretty cool. You can see him, Genesee. He does the media over there. He does the media for McKean. He also probably just about as busy as all of us on this podcast. Jeremy Perry. What's going on, guys?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, and I know we already announced it on Facebook. These are the announcers for the Woah Nellie 25. A cool little treat for y'all. We're a Marty Sakala short for having every announcer that's a Woah Nellie guy, but he's out playing sprint cars somewhere that night, so we'll let him pass. So hey, let's go in kind of chronological order. We got a lot of stuff to shill here. Jeremy, Thursday night, big blocks at Genesee Speedway. Yep. My man, what is up? We were there the last time they took the visit.
Yeah, it's our
big
second
horsepower at Genesee.
In my opinion, our second biggest show of the year. First biggest show was obviously when the big blocks were there back in June. I believe we had 16 or 17 of them show up, but we had the big names that were there. Matt Shepard was there. Matt Williamson was there. Eric Rudolph was there. This time around, we're going to have the same amount of cars, 16 to 20. Right now, I have 18 confirmed entries, which is pretty solid for us who don't run big blocks there weekly. We don't have Matt Williamson this time, but we still have Eric Rudolph. Sounds like Matt Shepard's going to be a maybe. I got a lot of maybes on a lot of big names. A lot of it depends on what happens tomorrow night at Woodhall. I know a lot of those guys are going to be racing at Woodhall, and then they're like, well, let's see what happens at Woodhall, and then we'll play it by ear the next night. But Rush Pro Rods are actually in town as well, too, for their first visit of 3. And that's paying $1,000 to win, which is a really good high-paying purse. For those guys, it's $100 to take the green, which is really good compared to other tracks around. Like I said, we don't have them there often. So they'll be there. This is their first visit of 3. They'll be back for Topless weekend. And then our regular classes, street stocks will be on hand. The sportsman will be on hand. Bandits and mini stocks. But whenever the big blocks are in town, it's always a lot of fun. It's a TV night, so TV will be there. DirtTrackDigest.tv will be there filming that, so that will be available for purchase for everyone if they can't make it to the track. But we'd love to see everybody out there.
Lots of big block racing this week during the week because I know what Short Track Super Series is also running this week too. Woodhull's got their big weekday show with the Rush late models, which Don't know my plans with that. Last year was pretty eventful, but we won't talk anymore about that. Hey, let's talk more about Genesee real quick before we move on. For those guys that might be maybe down in late model land, as I like to call it, for the PA
The land
guys.
I wish I was in.
Well, hey, what do you think we'll expect there for Genesee? Big blocks. Everybody's kind of on a level playing field unless you're one of the sportsman guys that runs Genesee Weekly. What should we be expecting out of the big block show?
So I'm excited to see, and I know everyone's saying it is they pick on Phil McNair because he wins all the time as a sportsman. He's also really good in the big block, and last time he ran really well at Genesee. I believe he was in the top 5 without looking, and he was up front. He was actually catching them, but again, it's Matt Williamson, Matt Shepard, and Eric Rudolph, the top 3, arguably the best 3, maybe in all of the Northeast, running that show. So really excited to have that there. I think Rudolph's going to be tough to beat. That's obviously goes without saying. But it all depends on who shows up because there's always some good guys that show up. And weekly, the track's gotten better. Last week, the track was awesome. We had the grader was back last week, so that changed the ball game for a lot of people. And it was a track that was racy. You can get around. It was a dry slick. And with these cars being there, it really changes the field for the other classes because you get these big tires out there and big horsepower, which we don't get a lot of that at Genesee. So when you do that, it throws these drivers for a loop that go on after them because they're just not used to that slick of a track. A lot of times it can be hammered down. This year it's been a dry slick, which is weird. But we'll see what happens this weekend or this Thursday night actually.
It's always a treat to see big horsepower at Genesee. I was always a big fan of when the ULMS would show up there for the Gladiator back when they had that.
It's almost like they need the big cars to run well on this track. The crate cars, as you see at State Line, McKean, they're crate cars at the end of the day. It's hard to go side by side. A lot of times, whoever's got that preferred line really has it. But in these big blocks and super late model sprint cars, they run side by side around Genesee. Pretty much that's the best racing we see all year is when these bigger cars are in town.
It's always a good time, and plus that track on Saturday was racy. Some heartbreakers in some of the classes.
Yeah,
but man,
turn an hour on that.
Yeah, I already cried about it this weekend, so we're all good. Hopefully we get some good luck for the Woah Nellie boys. It wasn't a great Woah Nellie weekend. And speaking of another track, you're talking about crates, being like a one line dominant track, man. Kind of to counteract that is Genesee Speedway this last Sunday, man. Even the crates were running at least 2 lanes. Jenko was using the middle. A lot of really good racing, and I think at Genesee there was some racing through the field from the crates. It was really cool to see Genesee get really racy again. I always say that turns 3 and 4 at Genesee are some of the most butthole puckering turns. Yes. I love shooting down there because it gets so tight, man. And speaking of another place, great transition. A place that puckers a lot of buttholes, especially in turn 4. Freedom Motorsports Park is running this Saturday for the Woah Nellie 25. I gotta do the plug here. The last time the UMPs were here, well, the last 2 times, the Woah Nellie 25 in 2023 part of the Fall Classic was a race to watch, controversy, passing through the field. Your hard charger was also your winner of the race, and Dave Hess. Hunter, you're more familiar with the UMPs. Jeremy got his first taste calling them back in July when Wyatt Scott ripped the lip at Freedom. That's crazy. That's another thing that doesn't happen there very often. Jeremy, what do you see out of Freedom since you got to call it the last time?
I was shocked to see Wyatt work the top and have it work because we've seen him go up top early on and there wasn't much there and it was kind of around the bottom. And then you could see with about 7 to go, he was trying it again and he was like a 1/10 to 2/10 faster and it wasn't enough. And then for whatever reason, something eventually hooked up on that high side and he was knocking off serious time. And you felt for Mike McGee, who was running a great race through lap traffic. Multiple times he was through lap traffic, and eventually it caught up with him at the end where Wyatt Scott just had the preferred line on the top. And like you said, ripping the lip. he just couldn't slow down there at the end. That top line came in, and sometimes when you're the leader, you're the sitting duck on this stuff, and Mike didn't know it was up there. He didn't know why it was up there, and then unfortunately coming to the white flag, that's when he made his move coming out of turn 4, and it was a wrap after that.
Hunter, you get to call the second ever Woah Nellie 25. I know I've been begging you to call a Woah Nellie race, and it seems you've been busy doing more than just state line this year. How excited are you to be able to do this race and also get to call Freedom? Because just to hype up Freedom a little bit, man. We have had some of the closest racing in the area in the last couple years. I mean, you go back, check out our friends Redneck Race Chasers on some of them close finishes, especially in the late models. But man, that previous UMP finish really got everybody excited about the return of the UMPs again here this weekend.
I'm pumped. I'm pumped to call a Woah Nellie race at Freedom. I've been talking to you about it. I feel like since all of this came about last year, so I'm very excited. Majority of these guys I'm familiar with. Some heavy hitters from this area going to be in attendance. So yeah, I'm pumped.
So. And there's a lot of unknowns this weekend coming in with Tyler County running with the UEMS, Sharon's running with the Locals Cup, and we're running our deal. So I think the interesting part, and I talked with Cody, who's promoting the place now. He's really kind of like the magic man, as I like to call him. He works all this magic behind the scenes. I think it's going to be really interesting to see who goes where, who pops up to what, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of heavy hitters in the UMP division. You go to Raceway 7 or you go to State Line or you go to Erie's on a regular night, you have the top 15 with an average feature win total of about 6 billion, dude. Like, I mean, there's nights where you have guys like Troy Johnson that are running 10th, and Troy Johnson's won, again, 8 billion features or whatever, absolute killers. It's going to be cool to see who's going to show up out of the guys that we've announced. Kyle Streckengoss is making his third Woah Nellie start here. I got the list. The Johnsons were announced as one of the very first people that said they were signing on, some big hitters in the local scene. CJ Ramsey coming on in his, local, or his first year in the UMP division, not his first year in a modified type car. Wyatt Scott obviously going to be there. Jimmy Diabo, Jacob McConnell's going to be there. Man, it's going to be some guys that they get around there, man. And it's not an easy track to get around. And I'm sure Jeremy calling the races, watching these guys struggle. It's this D-shaped, weird track, and a lot of these guys are going to be first time out there, so it's going to be cool to watch these guys adjust to a track that before last year, UMP cars haven't been, or E-mods, or whatever you guys want to call them through the years. It's been 15 years until they ran at Freedom. And then also with the McKean race, it was since 2021 and then we brought them back, and that was cool too. But the learning curve is still there. There's only a handful of guys that have laps around that place in any other car. So it's very new to all these guys. And Wyatt was always really good in the supers. So you kind of always expect, whether it be David or Wyatt, unload fast there in the mod. Hey, so let's talk about some announcing stuff. Jeremy, we don't get to talk to you. We don't get to come up to your neck of the woods very often. Watching you do what you do. And Hunter, you just got some big news here too. So we'll start with Hunter. We'll give you some attention. We'll move on to Jeremy. Hunter, you just announced you are picking up yet another gig. You're like becoming one of the most busy announcers in our area. Shows you how talented our area is with the Hunt the Front Series, man. How in the world did this happen?
Yeah, so towards the end of last year, Travis Scott, who's a pretty high up with the Hunt the Front series, him and I, we were talking a little bit about maybe making something work. And then just recently, this deal with the August 23rd and 24th at Lake Cumberland, that came about, and we worked some things out, and now I'm calling for Hunt the Front. I don't even know what to say. I mean, this is probably the biggest thing I've done yet. So it's really exciting. It's new. It's going to be different, that's for sure. I'm very used to just calling, around here, this region. So it's going to be a huge learning curve, but I'm really excited. There's some big names from all over the country that run that deal. Ashton Winger, Brandon Overton, Joseph Joyner, Sam Seawright, Dale McDowell. Some of the big names from the country, run that deal. So I'm very excited, very blessed to have that opportunity.
It's one of the most competitive tours. If you look really in the late model landscape, everybody said coming into this year, man, this is the if you want to see just absolute killers, obviously World of Outlaw and Lucas got some of the top guys, but the Hunt the Front Series, man, that's probably one of the hardest places to win. We always say around here regionally, we kind of liken it to maybe the Rush Tour with how many really just absolute talented wheelmen. And that's kind of like more of a, not a regional series, but it's still, it's not a across the country type deal. But man, you've been with the UEMS and ULMS this year. What's it like finally? I mean, you did Thunder Mountain a little, you've done a couple other not little small gigs, and then obviously the big gig state line of the last couple years. What's it like leaving the porch a little bit and kind of seeing the world, and what racetrack so far other than home have you liked calling the most?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been different. Going to different places. Luckily, majority of the tracks on the ULMS and UAMS schedule I've already been to, so I kind of knew what I was coming into, and most of those guys already knew. So that really helped me with that. Yeah, it's been fun. It's different. It's a lot different than just announcing at State Line every week, which I like. I like the challenge. I like going to a different place, seeing different drivers. And it's all quality cars too. That you're calling, which when you got quality cars making, that makes for good racing. Which makes Jeremy can probably agree with me, makes our job a lot easier.
A lot easier.
Yeah. So it's been a blast. And to answer that question, my favorite, probably either PPMS or Hummingbird. Both of those, I feel like Hummingbird gets slept on a lot, but I've said to so many people, I love that place. I love Hummingbird. So probably either PPMS or Hummingbird.
Got to shout out to the Bird, man. That night when we had the state line invasion, where it seemed like we had like the top 5 guys in every division show up from state line to the Bird, man. Super cool places. It's more like home than not, for the longest time. For those who don't know about Hummingbird Speedway, it was kind of like this hidden gem where I visited there before. Well, I'm not saying like I found this place before anybody else, but I felt like I got there right before they started opening the floodgates to have more series in. Before then, they just had the Penn, Ohio sanction, and they did all their own super late model shows. They brought in, hey, if we're going to do this, we're just going to do it, our thing. And now the ULMS has been there, UEMS has been there, Rush is going to be there. Super cool that they're starting to open up the place and the world is starting to hear about it a little bit more. But man, has it been, it's just a super nifty little track.
Oh, yeah.
Races phenomenally. And, it's just one of those places where a lot of people are like, you just gotta go. You just gotta go at least once. And the people down there, and I'll say this, whether it be, and we'll just start name dropping people, whether it be Peach or John, who basically running the place, behind the scenes. John's an absolute great guy, character, love talking to him after the races, or whether it's Christy doing the lineup shoot, which I only get to talk to her a handful of times a year, or just anybody there, man. It's super cool. Really enjoy going down there. So check out the Bird, if we're not racing any of our tracks that we all love and are always at. Jeremy, let's get to you, brother. So we haven't had you on the show. We haven't been able to ask you all these awesome questions, man. How did you get into motorsports, doing announcing and doing all this PR work? Because I feel like I've worked with you forever now, but not really. And I'm like, how'd this all start?
It's actually a really kind of funny story and almost unbelievable when you hear about it. So obviously I was at Genesee Speedway every weekend as a kid growing up, and then being there with the friends running there, with Contermus running there, Damian Long running there. Used to go there, watch Byron do it. Byron's still there, obviously. Doug Ricotta, those guys, they've been there forever. So I've been there forever. Used to be with the Hangover crew, still with the Hangover crew, and we used to do some dumb things and get pretty drunk. But we're there every weekend, so obviously you know a lot about it just being there every weekend. You know what guys are like, what makes them tick, and whatnot, and how this all came about. Actually, was I have season tickets for the Bills in section 339, row 4, seat 4. Okay, sorry, row 3, seat 4, and back in 2021, a guy come next to me and sat next to me in section 339, row 3, seat 5. He also had season tickets by the name of Rich Black. And we didn't coordinate that at all. So is Rich, and people who don't know, Rich Black was the announcer at Genesee Speedway. And obviously when he saw me at Bills games, I was in a different form. I wasn't normal, I guess we could say, as Bills Mafia. I don't think Rich ever saw me sober for a while. And it was one of those, he's like, you're really good. I really think you could do this. Like, just the stuff you come up with off the top of your head quick. And I'm like, I don't know, Rich. I don't know. And then the next year he kept trying again. He's like, well, how about you just come out and do like infield work last year? Just work the pits, and we'll try and put a show on for these guys. And I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. So I'll come out there, and the first month was awful. It was terrible. It was so bad. And Rich said something to me that kind of makes sense. And he's like, dude, if you're not going to be yourself, this ain't going to work. You know, I can't have you just be a stick in the mud, you know, stuff like that. And he was right. And there's a way to go around things and have fun and still keep it professional at the same time, so you don't have everybody mad at you. But that was really, really when things started to click last year. And then at the end of the year, I had a feeling Rich might be done. I knew he was, he really had hopes of going super dirt car racing and getting out with there. And then he got a hold of me in February, and he said, hey, I'm going to take this job full time, and I need you to take over the track. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I've never done this before. I'm pretty nervous. I don't know. And he goes, no. He goes, you're going to be fine. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't even know if Kurt and Bonnie will want me there. You know, to be honest, like, I've never done this before. Like, what you see is what you got. Do I know racing? Yeah, I've been around it my whole life. And it was one of those things. I went up there the first couple of weeks. I was probably nervous as all get up, being on my own and having to make things work, because there's a couple things that make me nervous. Actually, only one main thing that makes me nervous, and that's the opening night, or opening start, where you're playing the national anthem. That's the only time I'm nervous. I don't want anything to go wrong with the national anthem, because there's a couple things dirt fans want. They want their beer, and they want their American flag and their national anthem. That's all they really care for. And just don't screw that up. So that's the only time I get nervous on it. And then, like Hunter said, like, our job's easy. Once the racing's going on out there, like, it's super easy. I would say maybe the hardest thing about our job is calling a kids class. When there's 3 of them out there and you're just trying to, like, just talk about something. That might be the hardest thing. But really, these guys, these announcers, we have it made. I mean, we're literally living the dream, is what I can tell people. Like, how many people can go to the racetrack and make money? I know none of my friends do that race the race car. But yeah, that's a long story short on it with Vleck. And then, like I said, he got that call to go do full-time pit reporting for Super Dirt Series with Dirt Vision. So awesome for him. In my opinion, Rich is arguably the best to do it. I know he's not calling races right now, but he's got a brain on him where he's just got so much, and I pick on him for it, so much useless knowledge up there that he retains, and he can spit it out at a moment's notice. So yeah, it's been a fun first year, and obviously it's parlayed into McKean, and it's also gone into Freedom. And I also do basically just media directing everything, whether it's our Facebook page, our website, that's all run through me. Everything you see on there is through me. If anyone's making pictures, it's me, with Canva, stuff like that. So I run, it's a lot. It's not just for me. I'm not sure how Hunter does it with State Line, but for me, the job doesn't just end when we're done. I'm pretty much working on Genesee and McKean stuff, probably 20 to 25 hours a week, between research, writing stories for the paper, all that stuff, website. And then I deal with, I'm sure you've dealt with a little bit, but the Facebook Messenger, the questions we get in there are some of the wildest questions that you're like, wow.
Yep.
And they're serious when they ask these questions.
Oh yeah.
I have to mute the Woah Nellie page from time to time when we post certain things, because sometimes people like to either fight in the comments or tell me how good of a job I'm doing. So there's some pros and cons to that, but man, yeah, we get to live. I mean, all three of us get to live this dream where we get to show up, cover racing, and a couple of us make a couple friends along the way. So I don't know if I asked Hunter this the last time. Probably did, but that was many moons
Like
ago.
That was
Yeah, so if I'm becoming the old man who starts telling all the same stories or asking all the same questions, someone's gonna have to come get the stick and replace me with one of my partners here. But out of all the interviews, all the media stuff you guys have done, is there any interviews, whether it be on track, that you either really enjoyed or really memorable, or maybe stories from just doing this that maybe people might not know? I know Hunter and Jeremy both have had to interview. I think Jeremy has interviewed Steve Dixon in Victory Lane, but Jeremy, listen, you guys are in Bizarro Land, and I always like to put this up because Steve and Chelsea and I meet each other in Victory Lane quite often. After last year Steve won, probably about at the same rate as Zane, I would argue.
Yeah,
maybe a little less, because Zane's won like 15 features out of like 23 total Rush Pro Mod features or something crazy like that. But like at like Bradford or State Line or Freedom, the crowds were just like, "We hate you. This is the worst thing that's ever happened." Blah, blah, blah. However, we go to Genesee and Steve, I think it was Topless Weekend, just ripping around, getting whoever else was there. He was just so good, and he pulls into Victory Lane, and people at Genesee are cheering, and I'm like, Are we in the right place? We're just sitting there down there joking. I'm like, this is different. But tangent aside, guys, down on the track, any memorable moments, interviews, or things in the booth that people might have not heard before?
I don't have anything too memorable that happened. I have one that I didn't let happen. My first year, just last summer, Doug Ricotta and Billy Du Bois got into a tangle on the backstretch. And at Genesee, our mics work all over that track, from the backstretch to turns 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And you can talk from the backstretch. Well, they wrecked, and Rich is in my ear, and he's like, "Go over there and interview him." So I walk over there, and Doug's getting out of his car, and he's yelling at Billy, and he's saying not nice words. And Rich is just in my ear. He's like, "Get the mic in there, get the mic in there." And I'm like, absolutely not. It's not happening. That was probably it was going to be the most memorable, but there's no way I could put that, because I know Doug. I've known him for a long time, and I didn't want to do that to him. If it was somebody else I probably didn't know, I probably would have shoved it right in there and antagonized it, maybe, because that's what I like to do. But yeah, that was when I was just like, oh shit, this is serious, and I'm right in the middle of it. And there's no like track crews like working on the cars, and these guys are just in the middle of me, and that was what I was like, yeah, we're not putting this one on, Rich.
For me, it's probably in the booth, probably the Greg Johnson, Butch Southwell situation like a month ago at State Line. That was pretty fun. Or I think this was the same night. If it wasn't the same night, it was either the week before or the week after. But the Challenger B, man, when Spanky had the black flag out the whole race, then he jumps down from the flag stand, boom, boom, boom. And I can only imagine it was probably like beep, 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 beep. It's probably what he was saying. And I remember Chris and I were sitting up in the booth, and I could hear it from up in the tower. Spanky just slammed the black flag on the roof, and Chris and I, our mics were still on, and in unison we both went, "Oh!" Like we didn't know what to say. So we shut the mics off because we didn't really know what to say, and we just let the moment happen. But that was pretty entertaining. That that had me laughing pretty hard up in the tower.
That Challenger, I think, got black flagged for 8 laps out of a 10-lap B main or something crazy like that. And I mean, Spanky was waving the flag harder and harder every single lap. And I'm like, he's not going to like this. When he gets down, he is not going to. Oh, my God.
He was
I
not
think speaking of Spanky, one of my very first times I ever shot a state line, and this is back when I was paying to get in. I was standing outside of turn 4 getting absolutely dusted, especially when Ryan Scott would run the top, dude. I was just dodging clay, and he was he did his famous like this and started yelling in the window at some guy, and I'm like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? But I absolutely love it when Spanky gets down and he's like, really, he'll tell you how he really feels.
Yeah. That's signature Spanky Hall right there.
He's like, do you know what this means? I forget what he said, but it's something along with, when I give you this.
Yeah, you haven't been to a race at State Line. If you haven't seen Spanky Hall go down, I can yell at somebody.
Or go down and do the lineups.
What?
When he goes down to do lineups and he's just like,
yeah,
yeah, dude, crazy. Out of everybody, maybe you've seen race or maybe haven't seen race, what's an interview you're just hoping you get the guy down in victory lane?
Jeremy, I'll let you go first.
I don't know if it's any particular person, but for me, it's first time winners to see like what these guys. We know what they put into it. We know what it takes to be a winner. Like, you can't just show up on Saturdays and start working on your car. It don't work that way. And when you have a first time winner get out of that car for the first time and come talk to you, you can hear the emotion in their voice. You can see them shaking to the point where they're like, I can't believe I finally did that. I think that's what does it a lot for me when you finally see, like, this weekend. I know it's not a first time winner, Doug Ricotta. He wins this weekend. His mom's in attendance, who she can't make a lot of races. She was in attendance this weekend, and you could see, like, he's won all these races, but he's still super emotional. And so isn't his mom. And that's the stuff I really it's cool to see these guys work so hard and get paid back for it.
Yeah, first time winners are always fun. Like, I remember last year interviewing Zach Johnson after his first win. He was pretty emotional. Well, on your shirt, Matt Sipes, he was really pumped up. You remember David Parker 2 years ago, his first win? He was hyper. That was awesome. Like, those are always fun. Tanner Ramsey. But then one that I would want, I want a legendary Tyler Erb interview. either that, and the other one I don't see happening, but I want a legendary Scott Bloomquist interview too.
Yeah.
So we're like bucket list interviews. I'd say like a legendary pissed off Tyler Erb or a legendary Scott Bloomquist.
Out in left field, Scott Bloomquist.
Yeah.
Legendary out in left field, Scott Bloomquist.
Yeah.
I will tell you brought up, and Jeremy, I feel like I'm familiar with most of the guys from Genesee, but I don't get to see, the place very often.
Yeah.
At State Line, it seems like when finally people get over the hump there, it becomes kind of like this big kind of deal when you finally become like Kyle Bedell winning his first super late model win. That was really, really cool.
And I missed
Tanner Ramsey went from first time feature winner to like destroyer of worlds, guy who's never going to lose again. That was a cool transition he grinded for, I don't know, 2-3 years, man, and then he won his first race at State Line, and we're like, okay, cool. And then he won another one and another one and another. I'm like, okay. David Parker was really cool. Zach winning and then having him and his dad also in victory lane was so cool. The Johnsons, long time State Line folks, and all that good stuff. But doing my interviews here, talking to people, I just like seeing. I think the first time winners is really cool because you get to hear from a guy that we don't get to hear from very often. Jeremy, how many times you interviewed Jeremy Wonderling at Genesee, or
every time he's there?
Right, just like guys that win all the time up there. People are like, okay, yeah, cool. But then
Yep.
you get up there and you see, like when the Gatons both won at the same time and got their dual victory lanes. That was
Yep.
a really cool moment. Or
And Gaten's won a bunch in the past, and finally, that's another interview that was fun to do. Last time he won, it was his first. The week before you were there, last time we raced, it was his first win of this season. And like I love talking to James, and you could just tell, like early in the season, he was just beat up because he just couldn't put a night together, car wise. There was always something wrong with it. And then to get that win, even after he's won a million times, to finally get over the hump of not having no issues, and now he's back to back. So we're gonna have boring James Gayton interviews now.
Oh, it seems like so. I always say at State Line, the Challenger, the Bang Banger Racing, or the four cylinders, but State Line don't run four cylinder. You got the Challengers and all that good stuff because they run 6 cylinders. Genesee has hands down.
I didn't realize that was the reason. I didn't realize that was the reason why they're called Challengers there.
Well, yeah, they're called Challenger. They no rear wheel drive, front wheel drive 4 and 6, and that's why because you can run them at Erie's.
Yep.
State Line is maybe Raceway 7, maybe.
Yeah, I think Raceway 7 too.
I think maybe not though. I can't remember. So don't take my word on it, internet. I don't know.
The Bang Bangers at Genesee are usually out of control every week.
But
no
sometimes,
about it.
Every time I'm up there, the stock car racing is always hands down
the
some of the greatest. Yeah, street stocks put on a great show, and the mini stocks, when they are good, are great.
Yeah, mini stocks usually do put on a good show there. It's I'm not sure why. We've been averaging 18 mini stocks a week there, which is probably our highest class that we have. We had some nights, so just a regular Saturday night, there was like 27 there. And that was obviously an infamous night. That Monday morning, usually on Facebook, is interesting for the Bang Bangers. It turns into full Weber Valley every Monday.
I was about to bring up the bangers from Weber Valley.
Yeah, it turns into full Weber Valley.
It's crazy, and now hopefully my State Line friends don't crucify me here, but the Challengers aren't usually the class at State Line with the most things going on, right? Like there's some some hubbub and some whatnot, but it's not like other places. And I'd say State Line is relatively calmer than most places. I can't say the last couple of weeks have been very interesting, whether it be action on the track or some things that have happened. And we won't really go into it. But what I'm saying is just it's one of them things where I wouldn't say that would be our class that usually happens. I wouldn't even know what to say because everybody's kind of well behaved. There's some bad eggs everywhere, but I think everybody's well behaved, and I like that. But yeah, man. Hey, before we leave, thank everybody that makes all this happen, man. Both of you, whoever wants to start.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I just want to actually just thank Kurt and Bonnie Stebbins for giving me a chance on a guy who thinks he could have done this and hoped he could do this. And they took a big chance on me to take over everything for him with no experience. I can tell I was pulling my hair out back in April, and now everything's super easy, and I'm glad we're at where we're at. But if it's not for Kurt and Bonnie, after Rich got me into this, Freedom wouldn't be possible Saturday. Going to Bradford wouldn't be possible last Sunday. A lot of things wouldn't be possible without Kurt and Bonnie Stebbins.
With me, I say this all the time, but Rick Eshelman, he got me my first ever opportunity, which has led to everything I'm doing now. I say all the time, I would not be where I am right now without Rick Eshelman. He was, a mentor to me. He was like a coach. He helped me so much. So him, the Scott and Turner families, State Line, for giving a 15-year-old kid a shot that had like very little experience. Trevor Zuver from ULMS and UEMS, him and Chris, they've been great to me, giving me some amazing opportunities. And now Joshua Joyner and Travis Scott with the Hunt the Front series for giving me a shot to really branch out and go down to the South and do some racing. So yeah, thanks to all of them. My dad for putting up with my crazy announcing throughout high school. Even like it was tough before I had my driver's license. But yeah, just everybody that's helped me along the way.
All right, guys, we'll see you both at the Woah Nellie 25, and hopefully everybody watching, y'all are going to be there as well. It's going to be a great show, and who knows who's going to be there. I always like to say, you know, at McKean we had 25. It was the only thing popping off that day, and we had some of the biggest and, you know, best in the sport. So we'll see who comes through on Saturday. Maybe we'll get a new winner in the Woah Nellie modified, whatever the hell this is turning into. It's 2 races, I think 3. You can call it a series, but who knows? But thank you guys. Thanks to all of our sponsors that make Woah Nellie happen. We'll see you guys on Saturday at Freedom, and then hopefully, Jeremy, I'll see you Thursday at Genesee. And who knows where else we're gonna pop up? This hurricane is really kind of throwing a wrench into my week plans. So we'll see. So thank you guys for joining.
Thank you.
On the streets, flames, that's where the thrill begins. Roll show in the zone, give it all we got. Racing under moon like these cars too hot. Bumpers kissing.